the study Quran is significantly cheaper than it was to obtain back when it came out, or the next year in 2016 when I think I got this one. It's worth it either way because in some respects it is unique. It's not the only one with maps and a topical guide and commentary and notes on language. Some do better in some respects. There are still terms that aren't quite appropriate, like you do have mention of pagans, like a pagan is some sort of religion, which in the Greco-Roman sense it isn't. And let's be honest, the Catholic Church was still using it as a reference to all monotheists until 1967. And some churches still use terms like pagan and infidel and heathen and Gentile in that respect. Of course, in the Bible, the word Gentile tends to mean things like polytheist. It at the very least means those who follow their ethnic ways rather than guidance. Some have spoken of this as the Sufi Quran. You definitely have a lot of Sufi commentary that is mentioned herein. And some of these commentaries would mean, the inclusion of them in this book would mean that don't take a copy of this to Saudi Arabia, don't take a copy of this to Pakistan. There may be other countries, but yeah. Seyyed Hossein Nasr was editor-in-chief, Kenner K. Dagli, Maria Massi, Dakake, Joseph E.B. Lumbard were other editors, and Mohammed Rustom assisted. I know it would have given more size to it, but they might as well have included the Arabic for somebody who wants this to be their only Quran copy, and therefore, to practice the Quran in terms of reading it and stuff like that. The maps are exactly what one would want most, although there are some other things. Oh yeah, I guess the ancient world in Arabia does include some of the Noah's Ark stuff. It doesn't. We have the Middle East in the 6th century of the Common Era. So before Muhammad was born, the empires and the movements thereof. We had the developments in the broader region. So Muhammad's prophethood and onward. We have the Battle of the Trench. Is that Kondak, right? We have the Battle of Uhud. We have the topography of Medina. We have the region of the Hijaz. We have Mecca and the holy sanctions. And we have a guide, an illustration that indicates what's done on the greater and lesser pilgrimage. That's not detailed out as such. And finally, we have the Battle of Badr, and we have the conquest of Mecca, Hunain, and the siege of Ta'if. Well, there's Khaybar and others, so there's 43 Ghazwa, so I'm not sure how well all these expeditions were illustrated here in this book. the word index, the biographies of commentators is pretty good. The biography of commentators is better than either that or the date of events list. There are certain passages that, to emphasize the religious freedom and the science and stuff of it all, I would extend on them more. There is a very heavy reliance in some parts on commentary connecting to the Bible. Now, I would point out the fact that the Bible has twice the contradictions within itself. I'm talking about the 66 book versions of the Bibles, as the Quran has between that and the Bible. So that's an important thing to look at. We have a reference in order in which the commentary refers to them of sayings of Prophet Muhammad that are referred to by these, the comments on these narrations, because of course we should look at the inspiration in terms of the revelation and then our explanation according to that, right? Some are going to find the essays worth buying the text. I saw as an introduction to this other text, possibly an article that Harvard was selling for like £23, and I'm like, no, it's a public access thing. Somebody's got to have left those several pages in. Death, dying in the afterlife, conquest and conversion, war and peace in the Quran, Quranic ethics, human rights and society, the Quranic view of secret history and other religions, the Quran and Islamic art. Well, Islam doesn't say that any other religion was ever valid, you could say completely. Islam is the name of the original behind any religion. So any good and truth that is part of any person or path, Islam accepts as Islamic. And see, that was the original price of these things. The Quran and Islamic art, the Quran and Sufism, the Quran and schools of Islamic theology and philosophy, the Quran as source of Islamic law, scientific commentary in the Quran, traditions of esoteric and sapiential Quranic commentary, Quranic commentaries, Quranic Arabic, its characteristics and impact on Arabic language and literature, and the language and literatures of other Islamic peoples, the Islamic view of the Quran in translation, how to read the Quran. So there's elements of each of these things that tie into what we have here. Now, there's, for one commentary series, I would think that this is a very good one to look at. And no, there's not a transliteration either. This one here, the one right next to the one with the book bag, is probably the one with the best linguistic analysis. This one probably does better in terms of pure Sufi commentary and jargon and stuff, although I think there's probably a wider variety in the study Quran itself, and more quotes, of course. The Zohar one, this right here, is probably better when it comes to the folk understanding. There's some talk of the Shia understanding, and I think over here and over here we might do a little bit better with that. The study Quran is the sort of thing like somebody that might be on PBS or one of those channels might be better on. I guess there's some talk of the folk That's a pretty good one with that. Well, that's sort of the folk English way of thinking. And this reads like one of those classical books from the early 1900s and 1800s and maybe 1700s or something. The general introduction is pretty good by itself, too. I personally, I went over all of this, the translation set itself, and the commentary and all the introductions and stuff with my father. We just finished this Ramadan, and the ever expansiveness of the practice and understanding of the Quran, which is two of its rights. You got the learning and the preaching. The preaching can extend into new ways. The experiencing, more could have been done in that respect. The believing, well, there's a variety of ways to believe in it too, right? But yeah, this is a very good one.